Well, hello, my friends. I hope you're well today. I've got a little bit of the old Pfizer gland, but it's really nothing. It will go away. I was going to go for a bicycle ride this morning, but it started raining, and I guess it's going to be a little rainy till 1400 hours. So I won't be doing that. But the upside is I don't have to water any plants, which is nice. I was thinking with a friend of mine, we were having a conversation about what it might have been like living where we live 100 years ago, a couple 100 years ago, and would that have been nice, in the villages, farming and festivals and religious festivals and so on, and what the community would have been like. Our community is pretty friendly and nice, and people are pretty simple, and they know how to take care of themselves here. And they seem fairly anti fragile, but not really in the most extreme sense of that word. I'm sure that if the grid went down here, everybody would suffer. And of course, we live in a fossil fuel empire, and nothing in our modern industrial civilization, high tech civilization, could exist without fossil fuels. And it would be impossible to go to renewable energy overnight. We just don't have the capacity. And I still have these fantasies that I'm going to wake up one morning and there's going to be fusion energy and some other silver bullet tech and engineering things that just come out, and suddenly we're all good. None of us have to worry anymore. We can all go on doing exactly what we're doing, what we're comfortable with and what we're used to and what we know, and not imagine any other way of life. But we were thinking, yeah, but it's pretty nice. And if we did run out of oil, for example, we could figure out how to make things work because we'd get more local. We'd jerry rig and engineer some local power grids based on solar and wind and hydroelectric and whatever geothermal, burning plastics. I don't know. We'd do something. And we'd have our local agriculture. And oh, yeah, we wouldn't be using cars anymore necessarily because we can't put any gas in them. So there's no Mad Max, there's just no gas. So just imagine, okay, I'm not saying that's going to happen in a decade or in 5 decades, but anyway, someday it will happen because it's a limited resource, right? Forget about carbon and climate change, never mind any of that stuff. But we need energy, right? And our current socioeconomic global civilization paradigm requires huge, huge amounts of energy. And that's just the way it is. So if we didn't have this cheap energy, or if some crisis happened like climate change and put a damper on our ability to use oil and gas, could we find a way to live that would be comfortable and happy? So some of us probably don't sit around trying to imagine what it might have been like to live in a castle, 300 years ago, or live in a village in Europe, 250 years ago, something like that. It would have been so different. I don't know if any of us would have the strength to deal with it. But there would have been upsides to it, no doubt. I mean, people have been enjoying their lives for tens of thousands of years, which is why we're all here. I mean, if it wasn't, if there weren't some upsides to it, we'd be extinct, right? So, looking forward, like if you talk to somebody, go talk to your friend, and especially if they think that they want to live off grid and build a tiny house by a river and put it on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. And maybe they're thinking about living in a techno singularity, Jamie Wheel, hippie commune somewhere sustainable Peter Joseph, you know, commune someplace, Venus Project type thing, you know, and you're just going to design and engineer it and then you're going to put it together. Forget about all these social things, these human nature aspects, which is huge, right? It's like, how do we all get together and live together in this new village, eco-tech sustainability village, and get along and develop rituals and festivals and all these cultural things that will bind us together and make us into a coherent, cohesive community that can work together to thrive, not just to survive. If you could do that, that might be really kind of fun. I mean, I think a lot of people in the world can imagine that that might not be so bad, right? Especially if security wasn't an issue. And the hordes from the other county weren't going to come over and steal your stuff. If there was this ubiquitous value shift around the world where people were like, we're all going to stick to our lanes of expertise in our regions, do the best we can. We're desert people, you're mountain people, you're coastline people, you're arboreal forest people. We live in our environments and we do the best we can, and we thrive. Like the Hopi Indians, the Hopi Native American Hopis, or not Native American. There was no American. The Hopi Nation, right? Or the Navajo Nation, or we live in this environment. We grow the corn, we make the best of it. Or you know, Maori culture 400 years ago. But we have germ theory. We know how computers work. We we have technology. We have advanced engineering and all that. But if you knew all that, if you had all that information, and you even had experts in your village, could you manufacture that stuff without the energy? So you'd have to solve the energy problem. Simple, and then, that's a whole thing. So you can read dozens of books about that kind of problem. But anyway, so imagine that you're talking to your friend, and your friend says, "Yeah, that'd be great, man. I'd like to go live a simple life and be a part of a community like you know Canada back in 1892 or something like that." And I imagine that our relationships would be profound and deep, and it would be, anyway, you can't imagine that, right? Because unless you live that, you just have no idea the the trade-offs that you'd have to make. And I guess that's the big thing, right? Could I convince you to give up 25% of your conveniences for a sustainable future for your grandchildren and your children? Would you give it up? Just having everything at your fingertips and being able to eat whatever you wanted to eat 24/7, 365 days a year. And hop in the car, kids. Your daddy loves to drive. We're just going to pop on down to the multiplex. Oh, no, we do Netflix now. Never mind. We're going to pop on down to the national park and take out our solar lights and all our fancy, camping gear. And it's going to be almost like home, but it's going to be outdoors and maybe less light pollution, but almost like home. And you can plug in your mobile device and charge it while you're in the tent, sleeping at night. Anyway, you know what I mean? Would you give up any of that? Could you really like just muscle yourself into a 18th century lifestyle and be anywhere near happy? This is why people get so pissed off when sustainability people and climate change people talk about needing to change our culture and our values and having to recognize that there's not going to be enough cobalt or zinc or, I don't know, rare earths, you know, minerals to make batteries to go around forever and ever, and that we may not be mining asteroids because we might not have the energy, because it's not that easy to just convert everything to solar and wind power, and that requires energy to do. It's such a mammoth project. It's like the Manhattan Project on steroids by a factor of 10. You know, getting the whole world to just like say, okay, we're going to have to do everything differently now. And the Russians will do it differently, and the Nigerians will do it differently. You know what I mean? Everybody's just going to hop on board. So that's one factor. It's really difficult to imagine being able to do that. But then ask your friends, really seriously, would you give up all the conveniences you have right now to have a more sustainable future? And I think if people really thought about it honestly, and they were really, really, you know, come to Jesus with themselves, they would say, hell no, man. I'm not giving up shit. I want another car. I want another house. I want to buy a jet airplane. You know what I mean? I want to win the lottery, and once I do, everything's going to be perfect. So I just think that it's wonderful for me to romanticize when I visit a palace or a castle or something, and try to just imagine. I find it so satisfying and fun about some family with a mule and a cart, you know, traveling for a day to get to the castle for some festival, and then camping out near the castle and joining the festival the next day, and then humping it back for a day or two to their farm, and having to really walk down to the blacksmith's place to have him repair or fashion a tool for you so that you could, you know, grow food and stuff, and where you're going to get your water and store your water and how you're going to pump your water and all that. That's fun. And what was it like in the toilet, you know, back then? And how did they keep clean? What did they smell like, you know? I have a good time thinking about that. But then trying to project to now and think, with all of our knowledge, skills, and ability, and granted, most of us don't know how to do anything except turn on the computer and watch, you know, or pick up our smartphones and watch. I wonder sometimes, what are our skills? You know, what are your service skills? What's it involve? What kind of, you know, leaning in and what kind of emotional intelligence do you have and all this stuff? As opposed to like, well, I'm just going to make a camera right now because I need to take a picture or something. People figured out how to do that stuff. It took a long time, but it's amazing. But then how many of us can figure out how to do anything? You know, how to plant a strawberry and make it grow. I don't know. It's daunting, man. So I think most people are just resistant to change for good reason. You know, they just, in their heart of hearts, can't imagine being able to live differently. They just can't. It's too tough. It's too hard. And those of us who fantasize about being able to live radically differently are akin to people who think that they took a boxing class and so therefore they're Delta Force, Navy SEAL, Special Ops kind of caliber warrior. You know, it's just a big leap. So although there are many people in the world that would like to imagine themselves joining forces with humanity and moving towards a more sustainable world, I don't think there are many people who are going to actually do anything. So we're going to have the conversation, we're going to use our imagination, and we're going to keep on driving those cars. And if they're electric cars and they're powered by oil and gas, we're going to feel better about ourselves when we drive them. I don't know. Okay, Buliamti, out.